new and improved Infernity with some of the newer support that recently got announced. So the main card that I wanted to go ahead and highlight right here is Infernity Wildcat. While it is a very simple effect, there's actually multiple newer cards, but this effect is actually pretty big for Infernities, because Infernities sometimes you open up with too many monsters and you can't really do too much. Obviously cards like Shreed Patrol really help out, but specifically the newer card over here at the Wildcat allows you to go ahead and special summon it by just sending one other Infernity monster from your hand to the graveyard. So it just allows you to have a lot more consistency, to have less brick hands, because as some of you guys know, Infernities, sometimes you'll get stuck with a card in your hand and that's where you really just can't do anything. But in addition to this, there is Conjuror, which will then let you use, normally you would end before you'd have a lot of negates, but you would have to basically keep an Infernity up on the board for, of course, your barrier to be viable at all. Now, the thing with Infernities is you can't really play cards like Called by the Grave, but there is one newer card, we'll kind of touch up upon it. It's a newer trap card that lets you go ahead and set it and activate it, as long as you go ahead and have no cards, which is kind of how you play Infernities anyways. However, it only negates a monster effect, so in the steps that you would make this anyways, it might be an optional card. Like, Wildcat definitely will see some play, and the new Conjuror, which we'll see in a moment, it's just another free special summon that you'll end up getting. That way you can use Archfiend as material, because remember that you have to control an Infernity in order for you to be able to get that effect. So in this instance, we have the Appaloosa with 4 negates, which is more than enough to deal with, of course, any hand traps. But more likely, they would have hand trapped you at some point before your combo would have gone off. So at that point, the Infernity newer support card to negate wouldn't really be that viable, because remember, it only negates monster effects. I could still definitely say that you can play one copy of that if you want, because then if you opened up good enough, you might be able to go and have 9 negates, but it's a very consistent 8 negates, and they're good 8 negates, they're not just all monster effects. So over here, we got the triple barrier lineup, plus of course we have this, so that's already going to be 4 negates, and this is an additional 4. So you have 4 monster negates and 4 negate anythings, which is a lot better than, let's say, negating more monster effects, because this will negate all of the monster effects anyways, so you wouldn't have to worry about, let's say, like the giant rock guy over there, the Nibiru. But we'll even show you guys the gameplay of him playing through that, because AzneyesWhitedragon, aka Stardust, is absolutely a genius when it comes to Infernities. Like, he has some really, really consistent decks. Obviously, at this point, it doesn't really matter. His game over here, he still happens to have enough negates to really deal with whatever his opponent really has. And we're going to go ahead, main phase 2 tour guide, even though we could have made a game right there, Kappa. Anyways, more shenanigans going to be going on with, of course, Levier bringing back some of our awesome cards. So this is the other new card that I wanted to mention real quick, but again, it's just making absolutely unnecessary plays. But if you have no cards in your hand, all monsters your opponent controls lose 800 attack, which is actually a pretty decent little effect. But if this card is in your graveyard and you have no cards in your hand, you get to just special summon it, but banish it when it leaves the field. Obviously, you just succeed with it, and then it never leaves the field. So it's great use out of going for Levier to bring back your Mirages. So I think the card is definitely excellent. It's a simple effect, but it lets you, again, use your Archfiend for another bonus negate with your Appaloosa. Even though, I mean, after you get the triple, like, barriers plus this, it doesn't really matter if it has one extra negate for most plays, because you literally just negate every single card your opponent does, as they can't do anything through it. But let's go and check it out. I know some of you guys are probably thinking, well, what if they have Nibiru? Alright, let's go ahead and show off what the heck Nibiru does. Now, obviously, it depends when you are activating Nibiru, because if you activate it too early, the other player's still going to go off. You activate it too late, well, it doesn't really matter, because he's already going to be able to have something to stop that. And on top of that, another Ghost Ogre as a additional hand trap to go ahead and potentially stop. He's going to go ahead and just think that Nibiru is going to go ahead and save him here, but with that Archfiend, all it takes is one Archfiend to go ahead and make a game. You guys could argue that he did it too early, but again, like I mentioned before, if you allow them to go ahead and have too many monsters, one of the cards can just be a flip up, get back another card, and it could be Extender. Therefore, the Nibiru wouldn't have actually even got to see some play. So there was it through Nibiru and through a Ghost Ogre over there, and then we have the Snake Danger. That can also be another card to extend your combos, but we already have one barrier, so let's go ahead and see what cards we're going to be searching out with, of course, the Archfiend. So another card over here is the Infernity Paranoia. So this is the effect to tribute a dark monster, special summon an Infernity monster from your deck or graveyard with the same level but a different name. You do negate its effects. but it doesn't really matter because you can use it for Link or whatever the case may be. And in this instance, instead of going for Appaloosa, you actually see the Sorry Yugioh, which will give you an additional summon plus. Well, it gives you the ability to go and cycle through a bunch of cards and making multiple Sorry Yugioh on top of a Ghost Ogre and a Nibiru. That's just a little bit OP in my opinion, but that's just the way that Infernities are. And Infernities are either super OP or people don't even touch them. But I feel like going turn 1, the thing that is kind of unfortunate with this is you can't really make too many uses out of, obviously, hand traps, because you legitimately need to have no hand in order for the deck to be viable. You could set cards like Called, and then, I guess, maybe try to use them during your opponent, which isn't that bad of an idea. But when there are other cards just to act as extenders that are standalone, that can be activated against multiple things, whether it's Ghosts, Veiler, stuff like that. Like, obviously, cards like Reborn or Extenders. There's a lot of cards, Zero Max. There's so many cards that just extend your plays. And this is, again, after he's been technically stopped. Although, Opener Reborn, I'm going to admit, is just a little bit OP. But nonetheless, we have the Triple Barrier Break. Again, you can go ahead and play the new Infernity card too, but for the most part, because it only negates monster effects, it's just more valuable to have the additional barrier in most cases. But I'll mention it, and we'll go over it in a moment here. But you can see that it doesn't really matter. Like, what are you going to have? Unless you got, like, I don't even know, man. Like, what do you even do? You can't really do too much. There's just too much to really stop. And this is after he first already used 2 cards. And I don't know why the guy even stayed. But, you know, credit for that guy for actually sticking around, because I would have left, that is for sure. Guy's probably super salty. But in this instance over here, what is also nice, because the triple barriers, sometimes what you might think you'll run into the situation where your opponent will go ahead and, let's say, Kaiju one of your cards, you still have an additional Infernity monster to go ahead and access your barriers, as this does technically require you to have a face-up attack position Infernity monster in order to get its effect. Let's go ahead and check it up against Sky Striker, as that is definitely a deck that likes to go ahead and go second and try to deal with boards that, you know, are what seems a little bit more difficult. We've already seen an Ash Blossom, so one hand trap out of the way, but Ghost Ogre is indeed here once again to go ahead and get rid of it, but no worries at all. So if you destroy a battle by opponent's card effect, you can send another card you control to the graveyard instead, which is quite nice. But once again, sorry, you're going to go ahead and come right out, and then we have Necromancer. Going to be bringing back the Archfiend, and again, that Wildcat just really allows you to have consistency in this deck. Also give you guys the deck profile in case any of you guys would like to go ahead and try this. But yeah, this card obviously really, really good, just being able to cycle into a card after you use the effect of it. So Necromancer is going to bring it back. Archfiend, just kind of bread and butter, since these cards are not like a once per turn effect, like, you know, hard once per turn. You just go right into the Conjuror, and even though it's effects negated, it doesn't really matter. Go banish the card, no problem. We can access. You could have even made Levier there, but there's just so many options at this point. So Snake Boy's going to go ahead and summon itself, and then we're going to go ahead and have Sorry Yugioh boost it up, and there's the Levier now. Bring back the Mirage to go ahead and select the Necromancer and Wildcat in this instance over here, and then Necromancer will then be bringing back Archfiend. So then Archfiend will go ahead and get that awesome search, and pretty much game over for him. And then another Infernity Mirage is summoned. Gonna go ahead and once again bread and butter. Necromancer bring back Archfiend is basically the key plays with this. And then we see the 100 Eyes going to go ahead and copy that, and once again go back, bring back Necromancer, and it's just basically using the effect to bring back Archfiend again and again and again. And then we have 100 Eyes coming out, bringing back the Necromancer. I mean, the effect really should be, like, it's so broken when you watch this go. I'm surprised this guy stayed. I mean, a lot of times Sky Striker players, they feel like they can beat most decks going deck, and it is kind of true though. I mean, depending on what they open up with, because most of their stuff is not heavily reliant on monster effects. So we're gonna go ahead and see the launcher, go ahead and special summon, bring back that Archfiend. Now we got double barriers and another one coming out. There's Break. And he's just going to go ahead and pass there. I mean, I wonder if he ran out of time over there. I feel like he still could have gone off, which, you know, this deck, you'll definitely go into time with if you're playing in real life. But he's going to go ahead and stop that, and pretty much at this point, he's just going to go ahead and activate that. try to get that effect, but it's not going to go off, so that's game over. That's like super mega game over, with of course the new consistency that Infernities 2 had. Being able to go ahead and change the level. Oh, he's still going off. This guy's probably like, dude, what the heck else can you do with this deck? And now on top of that, he got hit up by that Macrocosmos and the extra negate anything, and we have an additional negate with this. We have 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 actual negates, even though we've already negated a few of his cards. That's just the power of the newer Infernities, guys. But if you guys do want the deck profile over here, here it is. So there's a card called Parallel Exceed here that I didn't get to mention, but it's just another combo extender. It's just another card at the end of the day. But anyways, how you summon this, if you link summon, you can just special summon this card to from your hand to a zone that it points to, and then you get to special summon another one. So it's another one of those extenders, kind of like, I think you saw these in the gameplay over here, but these are just, if you control level 3, you get to go ahead and special summon. Again, it allows you to play through a negation, and that can help out with Levier. So he opted to go for this versus going for anything that could stop your opponent from stopping your plays. So the newer cards that, well, Infernity Hell Archfiend over here has the ability, if you are going second, obviously this is all this gameplay is go turn 1, see how much negates we can put up, but you're able to go ahead and once per turn target a face-up card on the field and negates effect until the end of the turn, and if you have no cards in your hand, you can destroy that card. So it's okay if you want to go ahead and play second. I wouldn't say it's a terrible card, but generally how Infernity works is you basically want to pop off turn 1. But on top of that, if this card battles an opponent's monsters while you have no cards in your hand, it does double battle damage. And then a Dark Synchro monster that used it can make up to 2 attacks on monsters during each battle phase. But again, when you're setting up these boards where your opponent cannot Yu-Gi-Oh, why does it matter if it can attack 2 monsters? There's not going to be 2 monsters. So that's the newer card. Now, I did mention before that like Barrier does stop more things because eventually you make Appaloosa, and that will be the card that you will negate Nibiru with if you are afraid of Nibiru. However, this card can still be an okay-ish card. And the reason why I say it's okay-ish is it requires you to have no cards in your hand, and a lot of times your opponent will disrupt you midway through, and that's my guess why Stardust, aka Handless over here, is not playing it. But this card's okay. So if you have no cards in your hand, you can activate this card the turn it was set. So when your opponent activates a monster effect while you control an Infernity monster, you get to negate that effect and then inflict damage to your opponent equal to that monster's level times 100. You can activate 1 Infernity suppression per turn. So what it comes down to is it does a small amount of burn damage. It's not going to be enough to make a game. If it was like times its level times 1,000, then there could be some more interesting plays and you might be able to FTK your opponent if they do anything, which would be funny. But at the end of the day, when this card is searchable like compared to Barrier, I think Barrier is just going to be a little bit better considering it can negate anything, and this is not even a counter trap card, so it can be susceptible to other things running into some chains. But I still don't think it's a bad card at the end of the day. But anyways, I'm going to go ahead and mouse over the cards real quick just in case you guys want to go ahead and copy it and you're playing over on physical Yu-Gi-Oh! But I will go ahead and also include the download file in case any of you guys want to go ahead and download the deck profile for the new variant of Infernities. But like I said, you could definitely run this card. This card, I would say, it's not a terrible card and it still is usable. Like, honestly, if you want to drop Star, I don't think you need 3. But that could be an option. And if you want to go ahead and just add this card instead of, let's say, a Barrier, it is definitely another thing that can be possible. And heck, with Archfiend, you can resummon enough times to go ahead and search off everything. That's if you don't run out of time because, you know, that is still a thing. It just really comes down to, honestly, the cat is what makes the new Infernities so much stronger than its previous versions. Because, again, when you open up with too many monsters, it just kind of is unfortunate. Like, opening up with Double Tour Guide, it's rough. So you need something else to have as, like, let's say a discard outlet to go ahead and help out with extra consistency for the deck. Obviously, we also had that the little Jackalope over here. Let's go ahead and help out with that. But you also have a lure to get rid of like most of the stuff in the deck anyways, in case you happen to have too many. But anyways, thanks for watching, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did and you are new here, make sure you guys subscribe, turn on the bell so you don't miss out on more new Yu-Gi-Oh! Decks like the newer Infernity one. And shout out to my homie Handless aka AzneyesWhitedragon for hooking me up with the gameplay. I'll link him down below if you guys would like to check him out. And if you guys would like to send me replays as well, feel free to go and do so at azneyesreplays@gmail.com, or you can go ahead and send it to me via the Discord, which again will be there with the download link for the deck profile. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll catch you in the next video. Peace.